Now, I'm Isaac Witerero wa Kibotho, and she's Rosemary Wango Iwa Witerero, but there's still Kibotho ahead of that. If you listen to the people who have already heard their testimony here, the first one was Mr. Kibotho. He said they were married for how long? 37 years. Then Kaihori came, he said he was married for how long? Interestingly enough, the years are increasing. Okay? We've been married this year for 40 years. And if you think about that, to share in 10 minutes a testimony of 46 years, a testimony of 66 years old, no, 69 years old, and 73 years old, 10 minutes will be lying, isn't it? And becomes very, very difficult to decide what to share with you. But when John asked us to share, at least briefly for 10 minutes, I decided to share two things. And I want to give the background of those two things that I decided to share with you. During my last Christian Union meeting at the university in 1975, March, the speaker who came to speak to us challenged us, and he said many of those who have been at the university, fiery for God, was at Makerere University. When they leave the university, you don't hear very much about them. Many go and they fizzle into the world and into the crowd, and you hear very, very little about them after that. I actually went to my room that night and I cried to God. I say, God, I'm leaving the university. I just done a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture. I'm not going to be in any way a pastor in full-time ministry, but I want to go and remain fiery for you as long as you give me the grace to live. Of course, a few days later, from 1975 to today is 48 years ago. And the question is, how have I related with God during that time to keep me the way I am today? When I left the university, I went out looking for what I can do for God. Not really a full-time minister, because I didn't have any training in theology. But what can I do for God while I'm outside here? Of course, I found a ministry to work with, the Kenya Student Christian Fellowship, which we have served with John Nanga up to now. We are still engaged in ministry with him, and many other things that we do. But for your sake, two things I thought to experience, I'll share with you, will be very useful for you. One, God, in his interaction with me at that early age of working, the first thing I learned from God was this. He said to me, salvation is free. Amen? But you have a price to pay to walk right. Salvation is free, but you have a price to pay to walk right with me. By God's grace, I came out, immediately got hired by the Ministry of Agriculture and posted to Nakuru. We had known each other through letter writing. And by God's grace, I was in Nakuru for 4 months. And those 4 months were very critical. Because I managed to make sure she has said yes She was married. In 4 months. And as soon as that was done, I was transferred from Nakuru, which was at Egerton University. I went to Kitale and continued to serve the Lord. During that period of time, of course, I have had the opportunity to serve with the Ministry of Agriculture from an agriculture officer, a senior agriculture officer, an assistant director of agriculture. I've worked with FAO as a national project director. I've worked with the World Bank as a program consultant. But what God taught me right at the beginning there is I've all along learned that being saved is a long journey with the Lord. Okay? And at every stage, there is a price to pay. You can imagine during those periods, there was finances to manage, there were personnel to manage, there were projects to implement. Later on, I became a minister with CITAM, right from planting a church in Parklands to a senior pastor to a deputy bishop. And there's so much resources to manage, isn't it? And there are so many people to interact with. But that one thing has remained in my mind. There is a price to pay in order to remain a Christian. Those who have spoken before me have talked about corruption, isn't it? Cutting the corners, isn't it? You are out there in the field and working with the people, and they see you are born again. You are not able to do all these things to enrich yourself. And they think you are foolish, isn't it? You are with this man with you that you are working with, and they ask you if you get born again and remain born again, what will you do with all these beautiful girls around? They are there to be used. They are there to be tested. You think about promotion, they tell you, how will you ever get promoted if you remain a Christian? And it's a price to pay to still walk right with God and keep yourself. And say, yes, by God's own grace, He will see it right, and He will push me through the ladder of promotion, isn't it? I've already said I started as a simple agriculture officer. People say my climbing up was supersonic, and I agree it was. Within 3 years, I had 3 promotions, from a simple agriculture officer to a senior agriculture officer. By the time I was 10 years on assistant director, overseeing programs for this. Got into set up a church planter, giving free service, and within the 15 years that I retired from CITAM, God is faithful. And all I'm challenging you and I'm saying is that at every stage you have a price to pay to remain walking with God. There is no choice. There is no compromise. And I believe that's the greatest lesson that God taught me right from the beginning. I remember that initially when we were in Kericho, we were just newly married. You know, there was only one hotel in Kericho, called Kericho Tea Hotel, isn't it? And I was very young. Very young. By that time when I was the head of the department, I was only 27 years. The ministry with the biggest personnel on the ground, with the resources in terms of vehicles and finances, the biggest ministry. And of course, around us was all these tea estates, the tea managers. And of course, in the evening, they come from one place to the Kericho Tea Hotel. And my friends, the HOD, the departments would want to go there also every evening. And I said, I can go. Once I went, twice I went. You know how the guys start? They will start with soda, isn't it? Or they will start with a cup of tea. And after a little while, they will say, oh, let's get civilized now. The beers and the wines begin to come. The ladies who have come from the offices begin to move around them. What is likely to happen next? You are a Christian and with that company. And I think if you are going to walk right, you must watch the company you do what? You keep. And so it's a price to pay, isn't it? Even for you, I see most of you are fairly young guys. You must be climbing up in the ladder wherever God has placed you. I can tell you, you'll make it to the top. But to remain right with God, you must continually keep paying the price of doing what is right. But as if we were. And that's the first thing that God taught me. And I think I have lived with that. That wherever I am, I have to do what is right, pay the price to remain walking right with God. There's no choice for you as a child of God if you are going to finish victoriously. Sometimes it will be so painful. Sometimes you'll miss the opportunities. Sometimes you'll need to be given the accolades by the people who should be giving it to you. Sometimes you will fail to be recognized as you should because of your faith. But it's a price you have to pay to remain walking right. The second lesson that God taught me, and I feel it is of importance to you people, and again now as a family person, is having to live within our means. We both come from very humble background. But then, of course, I was working, and she was working. She has worked at Daystar University. She works as a secondary school teacher. She's worked in Daystar University. And we are both retired now. But we learned at the beginning, we must learn to live within our needs. Where do we live in terms of home or residence? Where do we take our children? And we have 3 boys and 1 girl. And one of them is right at the back there with his wife. Where do you take your children to school? What sort of car do you drive? What sort of gadgets do you own? What sort of clothes do you wear? I think all these have to do with the resources you have, isn't it? With the resources you have. Now, while we are out there in the rural area, and we are out there working for 12 years and moving around this country, it was easy. It was very easy. Because as a government officer, I'll always get a big house and a big compound. Their government vehicles are available for me around there. Labor outside there was easy. Food outside there was easy. An agricultural officer, wherever I went, we passed through the markets. Our home would be flooded with food. It was easy out there. But after that long time, we ended up in Nairobi. And our greatest shock is that when we landed in Nairobi, I came 2 weeks earlier, started looking for a house. You can't get a house. You got a new living to a big mansion, isn't it? Big compound, servants to work for you. But God still reminds me, you have to live within your means. In fact, we ended up living in Isli. Isli that time is not the Isli of today. Isli of today, you have the high rise, beautiful and the rest. And only along the highway, at 3 in the morning, all the trucks are passing on. Next, below there was a slum. You'll see them coming to collect the waste in the morning. You know where they put in the bucket and then collect them. We were there for 3 months. Our salary could not afford a house. Now, our house allowance that time could not afford a house in a better place than that. We have 3 children now going. 2 are going to school and 2 are starting school. By God's grace, within the past 3 months, He upgraded us and we moved to Buruburu. I thought you would say amen. And we moved to Buruburu. Another 3 months, we were able to get the government house. And we lived there. Now, the challenges out there are different from the challenges in Nairobi. And as a child of God, you must always still live within your means. Otherwise, you'll be in a lot of problems. Because if you want to live outside your means, either you've got to borrow, and you are always indebted, you cannot pay what you owe other people. You've got to steal, and we know Christians who have stolen, or you have got to get into all corrupt means. Is that true? I think the greatest challenge we experience when we came to Nairobi, and some of those colleagues of mine are here, is that having lived out there, when we came to Nairobi, found our colleagues had really moved on. Okay? And by that time, some of them were living in their own. The cars they were driving are not the sort of cars, right? I can remember now we were driving a very small KBG 323 blue Mazda. You know those old blue Mazdas? The next one, when we upgraded, it was a car which was sold in an auction, a KUE. Because now my family was big, I remember one time my son came and told me, my friends wonder, why do you keep one car for a very long time? And I told him, you go and tell them that's the only thing your father can afford. I remember one time, I'm coming to finish, I struggled. And I think men here you go through that struggle, whether you like it or not. Sometimes it's your wives pushing you because they can see what Jane and Mary and their family are doing and where they are. And I'm not in any way saying she pushed me. Be very patient. But you struggle as the man, isn't it? You want to give them what everybody is giving. They go there and they sit and they want to say, Tuliona ile. Baba so and so, they have changed their car. Isn't it? We've lived in this estate for a very long time. I struggled. Of course, when the time came by God's grace and we wanted to buy a house in Nairobi, 1992, our first house. That was our first house. The only place we could get a house that we could afford was in Embakasi. But you can imagine as a man the way I was feeling. I now am able to buy a house, pay a deposit and take a mortgage. But some of my friends thought, how can you go living within your means? Okay? Living within your means. I don't regret. I think today we live in a place we not live in a better place than we live there. Okay? That's a fact. But living within your means. And in that struggle, God taught me some lessons. One, it was through a song that says, when you look at others with their lands and gold, do not be discouraged thinking all is lost. Count your many blessings, see what God has done, and you will realize what the Lord has done. When that song hit me, it woke me up. And I learned 2 lessons. One, we will never be the same. Please, you will never be the same with all your colleagues. You will never be the same. For 2 reasons. Because we have different needs of resources. Some have only the salary they earn. Others have some passive income from some investments they have. Others, their wives are earning and they have big salaries, and you all know about that today. And even that guy you work in the same office, you will never be the same. Please, and that hit me hard and it woke me. And so you should not struggle. You should not want to be equal to them. Live within your means. Because your means are not the same. You are not get the same. At the end of the month, you are not receiving the same amount of money. And that hit me very hard. Secondly, even that person that you are living together, your commitments are not the same. Even if you earn the same, your commitments are not the same. So you cannot be equal. There is that guy, as the English say, he was born with a spoon in his mouth. So his salary might only be the pocket money. How can it be equal? Your commitments are not the same. There is that guy, he was not born with a spoon in his mouth, but he works and earns like you, but his commitments are less. He's not supporting anybody in their family. Okay? And so all the money he has is for himself and his family. But it's this guy. He has to take care of his family. He has to take care of his siblings. He has to take care of some relatives. How will you be the same together? Thirdly, what God taught me about that is that success does not come through the amount of money you earn or you have. It is through how you manage what you. And with that, I think I'm now retired. I retired from SIPDA, which was my last job. I've been at Park University where I have taught that. And I'm now retired from last year. I'm a freelance. I'm just working now. But I feel very confident. One has to feel because I've learned to live within my means. Even now, retired, I must adjust from all those things I was doing when I was working to live within my means. So, two things I want to leave with you, ladies and gentlemen. One, you have a price to pay. Remain walking right with Christ. God will bless you to climb up the ladder, but even as you climb, every decision you make, there is a price to. Don't be surprised. And secondly, live within your means.
I'm glad to be here today. I have seen the Lord. So the little song that I want to sing, some of these beautiful girls here can sing, but because the time has gone, munaweza kuhamu tu. I've never traveled far around the world. I've never seen so many sights on earth and below, but I have taken the journey of journey, hear me. I've been to Calvary, and there I met my Lord. Let us stay at Calvary. No matter what you are going to face, hang in there. The Lord will not disappoint you. He didn't say many things, but when he left the so-called Makerere, I don't want to say anything, but he came hanging around the colleges. And he just grabbed me from Edgerton. Can you imagine? I know you will ask me, where are you to just be grabbed? I was grabbable. The Lord